Warning, the following podcast contains irreverent humor, uneducated and exceptionally nerdy opinions, potential cursing, and plenty of love for the prequels. If any of the preceding offends you, please turn off your computer immediately, and may the Force be with you.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder!
You can't use that word! Only we can use that word!
We'll use the Force. That's not how the Force works.
You're tuned in to the Nerf Herder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate, featuring your hosts, JT. Maybe that's who R2 saves. R2 has, of all the myriad tools that he has in his chest, he's got a dent puller. AJ.
I was so hoping this was going to be a family show, too.
Oh, my God. Steve.
That's when you know you've really hit your peak and you're a good character. When you start decapitating children, I'm good with it.
On this episode of the Nerf Herder Council, Episode 4 or Episode 5, which is better? Did the Emperor want Luke dead? And booby trees.
This is the Nerf Herder Council.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. With me, as always, is AJ and Steve. And we are doing this a week later than usual. We usually record every other Wednesday. But we skipped last week because, Steve, you had something pretty momentous happen in your life.
A little bit.
Just a bit. As a result, you are running on about 2 hours sleep in the last few days.
Yeah.
So,
what was it, a hard poop?
Yeah, that'll keep you up at night.
No, there's been a lot of non-hard poop.
For anybody wondering,
Yellowish green. For some reason, it has seeds in it.
what are you feeding the kids? Strawberries?
I did not have any corn.
Yeah, right.
Apparently, if you drink breast milk, you poop seeds. Who knew?
I don't trust that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Can you plant those and make booby trees?
I wish.
Well, that's going in the intro. So anyway, Steve, you had your second child, your first son. And for me personally, I think he's got a kick-ass name because I'm a huge Stephen King fan. And your wife, Gwen, named him after the main character in the Dark Tower series, Roland. Although, as much as Stephen is a great middle name, I think it would have been even cooler if it would have been Roland Deschain Schlegel.
I don't even know if that was in the books. I think Gwen just asked, and she's like, "You want him to have your name as a middle name?" I'm like, whatever you want to call him, it's cool.
And leave her up to naming the kid.
Yeah,
That's a terrible idea, don't you think, Jonathan Toby?
Hey, there's nothing wrong with my name. It's my father's name. It's basically like James Tiberius Kirk, like when in the Star Trek remake.
Actually, that's very true. You're gaining weight as you age, too.
No, I'm losing weight. I'm doing well. It's very slow, but I am losing. So that's...
It doesn't count as losing weight just because you can't see it behind everything else that you've already got.
It counts.
Like
just because you got a haircut doesn't mean it's weight loss, man.
The weight he's lost are his toes because you can't see them anymore when he looks down.
God damn it, I could see my toes. All right? Look, I'm losing weight. It's just slow. I started out as a giant fat slob, and now I'm a not quite as giant fat slob. There's a difference.
A skinny fat slob.
Right? A more slender fat slob.
Well, I thought I had you motivated to lose a little bit of weight when I posted about that beer mile. I mean,
how would that help me? I can't run a mile.
Dude, it's just like the Simpsons with their beer league that they had.
Hey, we know how to play softball.
To cross first base, you have to chug a beer. If you're stealing second, you have to chug a beer, and score at home, you have to chug a beer.
Hey, we know how to play softball. No, I would like I said in that post, man, I'd be able to run maybe 100 yards and I'd be done.
Well, honestly, you would not be the only person not running. How many people are going to pregame that thing? They're going to be stumbling down the street.
Oh, right.
right from rope drop, man.
They stop 100 feet later to take a piss. They're like an old dog.
Dude,
What you need to do is hang out with whoever is at the back of the pack and then just keep your energy to you. The last like 10 feet, just sprint. And then just talk a bunch of crap about how you didn't finish last.
I like that idea. Now I kind of want to do it.
Throw a beer at their chest. Loser!
You suck at running.
They probably have an artificial time limit. When they just sick of watching everybody shuffling along, they just call out, "Man, Keg's running a little low." All of a sudden, boom!
everybody gets a second wind magically. Yeah,
That'll make you run.
I'm considering doing that, but I will be awful at it.
Come on, it's awesome though. It's only a mile. You have to chug a beer to start. I mean, that's the thing is they make you drink a beer before you start the mile, and then they have another one that you have to drink during the mile, and then there's 2 more at the end.
Oh my goodness, my wife will be hammered.
Oh, it's going to be great. That's the best part.
Wow.
What's the costume choice for that day?
Ooh, I don't know. Well, wait, for me or for Stephanie?
Not for anybody.
Yeah.
You got to get the group all matched up, right?
Stephanie is my wife, by the way, for anybody listening.
I think we should all go as Wonder Woman.
Everybody?
Yeah, everybody.
Sounds like a plan.
Can I? I'm not going to go there because it would require editing. I just had a hilarious idea, but
We'll all do a lineup and play who wore it best. And I'm talking Linda Carter era Wonder Woman, classic.
it sure wouldn't be me. That's for sure.
You'd have the best rack.
I'd be like the pregnant Wonder Woman.
Using the invisible lasso as a belt.
Do they make an invisible girdle?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow, we keep getting off the rails sooner and sooner in this show.
Hey, you had a kid, Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so about this kid, how did you tell us a little bit about it?
He's little.
Yeah, it's a
I
tiny
did dirty things to my wife, and then he came around 9 months later.
more than 9 months, it seems like.
Yeah, about a week and a half later or so.
Your kid is lazy. He did not want to get the hell out of there.
God, he is.
He
dude.
did not want to get out
They
of
had
there.
to cut him out.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Got about halfway dilated, and then my son was like, no, let me sleep.
He's bracing himself, and they're like, no.
He's like, nope. Staying in, and then they had to cut him open. He's like,
Right?
It seems like a lot of work.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I want to.
So yeah,
Too bright. Turn the lights off.
So yeah, the poor guy spent a week in intensive care in like a critical condition room, in some like baby bubble, and had a million tubes hooked up to him at one time. And
So he was like Anakin Skywalker.
I was just going to say, it's your fault for being such a Darth Vader honk.
yeah,
maybe,
exactly.
yeah, he couldn't breathe on his own, all kinds of stuff like that. It sucked.
Darth Vader.
But he does not have a torso light bright right now. I can verify that much.
Ah, okay.
So
All right.
not quite,
Well,
but he's
yeah.
cool. He's up there on his own now, breathing and everything. He's needy, but
Those darn
2
2-week-olds.
yeah, 2 weeks old. I'm trying to get him to be a little more, independent already. I'm kind of tired of it. He needs to get a job, start pulling his weight around here.
I forgot. I have applications for you in the car that you asked for, so
Okay.
I'm on your side with this
Awesome. Yeah, he needs to do something. 2 weeks has been way too long.
one. Right?
Freeloading on us, man.
You're like, enough is enough. Have you seen this medical bill, kid? Time to
Yeah,
start
right?
chipping away at this.
Right.
So a second thing that happened while we were off, I got to use my new cornhole boards for the first time since I won them close to a year ago. Actually, more like 9-10 months ago. But the reason this
Back
matters,
when cornhole used to be cool.
listen, I don't care if it's cool. I love throwing cornhole, man. But the reason
It's right behind bowling is like the lazy man sport. That and darts. So I see. Like, it's cool. I'm with you on that, man.
I do.
Don't forget pool.
I'm all about
Yeah, pool.
sports air quotes that don't involve movement.
Right?
That's why bowling's at the top of that, because you have to take 6 steps to throw the ball. The rest of them you don't really have to do anything.
You just stick to Wii bowling.
Oh yeah, I kill in that, man.
Right.
That's
No, the only reason it's pertinent to our podcast is because I won a custom set of cornhole boards at a fundraiser at a local animal shelter last year, and AJ did some killer Star Wars graphics for them. So I have an original trilogy board and a prequel trilogy board, and the bags are the color of Luke and Vader's lightsabers. So I have bright red and bright blue bags, and we got to bust them out for the first time since we've had them, and we used them this past weekend, and I didn't lose a single match. So I was kicking everybody's ass at cornhole.
You farted on my girlfriend.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do to win.
I understand
regardless.
You're indoctrinating her to the family. I get that, but come on, dude. It's the first time she saw your place and you farted on her.
I did not fart on her. That is a complete fabrication. I farted around her, and she happened to be downwind.
That is an important distinction somehow, apparently.
I am not responsible for which way the wind is blowing, and I did not fart on her.
You know what?
Me
not being there, I kind of got his back on this one because Gwen says I fart on her all the time when I'm just farting in the general area. She's like, "Oh, you aimed it at me." No.
Yes.
If I did, you'd know.
Thank you.
You wouldn't be able to breathe right now. So
yes.
When you cross from one side of the cornhole board to the other and then fart?
No, that's because I had to throw the shot from that side of the board.
Uh-huh.
It was a strategic move.
Right, and Lee Harvey Oswald was just firing his gun to clean it out, and the fact that a president happened to get in the way of the bullet, is total coincidence.
Are you really comparing me crop dusting your woman to the death of a president?
You assassinated my girlfriend with your flatulence.
It means somebody else farted from the grassy knoll, and it wasn't even your brother.
That's how the bullet bent. That's how the bullet bent.
Oh, my Lord.
It was a crosswind.
So your brother's fart hit somebody else's fart from the grassy knoll, and that's what pushed your brother's fart towards your girlfriend. We're analyzing. Back and to the left. Back.
It was like the magic
and
bullet
to the
of
left.
farts.
There is a book repository right across the street.
Yeah, there's an old library, yeah. Oh. All right,
and that comes back into Stephen King.
Yeah, right? Exactly. All right.
And now that it's full circle, Star Wars.
Yeah. Hey, this is a Star Wars podcast.
Sometimes.
So let's see. We touched on booby trees, invisible lasso belts, pregnant Wonder Women, babies, cornhole, and farts that are the magic bullet of flatulence. We're doing great so far.
Hashtag JFK farts.
All right, I'll hit record now.
Oh, yeah, right. Man, if you wanted something new for my intro, I think we might have found some in the first 10 minutes of the show. But anyway, as we teased in the previous episode of the show, tonight we are going to discuss episode 4 and episode 5 and see what our opinions are in terms of which is the best Star Wars movie. This is actually derived from an article that was posted on StarWars.com, and they had two of their blog writers go head-to-head, and one was in favor of episode 4, and the other was in favor of episode 5, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to see where the three of us actually stand. And I was thinking about this for the last few weeks, and it's difficult. It's really difficult for me to figure out which one I think is the best movie.
Between 4 and 5?
Yeah.
Well, one's got whales, and the other one they go searching for God. It's just really bizarre.
For the love of Christ.
But you do get the Vulcan neck pinch on a horse, so...
Are you going to get serious, please?
Not on this show.
Why?
Yeah, right?
Well, I'll be the first to take the easy way out and say Empire, based solely on the fact that out of 7 Star Wars movies, Empire is the only one that when the credits roll, the bad guys have technically won.
That's true. That you're a much bigger fan of the dark side.
I mean,
Wait.
if for some strange reason Episode 6 could not have been made and the Star Wars franchise stopped at that point, technically the bad guys win. Han's gone with Boba Fett. Luke fell into the world, got his hand cut off, and fell into the world's most convenient tube slide. But technically Vader came out on top on that. Boba Fett's got Han and Carbonite, and that's pretty much where the credits roll. While they're staring out the window into space while
in the medical frigate, yeah.
Yeah, while Chew and God, I'm drawing a blank because I'm on an hour of sleep.
Lando
leave to try to go get Han.
Okay. What do you think, AJ?
Well, first, if you just like the ones where the bad guys win, wouldn't that make episode 3 better than 5? I mean, they collapsed the whole Jedi Order. Palpatine's on top, Death Star being built, Vader gets created. The surviving Jedi are in hiding.
But we're not talking about episode 3 on this.
Well, I did say all 6, but still, like at the end of that, technically there's still kind of the happy-go-lucky, right before the credit roll.
What was happy-go-lucky about the end of episode 3?
I mean, yeah, Vader came out but
it was sunny on Mustafar, so
but you still had the kids being born and stuff. Like it went out on a higher note than.
I guess so. A very small higher note because it was that last little thing. Like,
it's
not the babies delivered to the new parents, and
it's not like episode 1 or 4 where there's a ceremony that Chewbacca gets shafted or Boss Nass is holding an everlasting gobstopper above his head for some reason.
Right.
It's not that happy-go-lucky, but still, all
right.
I mean, yeah, the whole movie to the point, yeah, the Jedi Order technically falls and all that crap, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess, but maybe it's.
I can see what you're saying because at least there's like a little bit of hope at the end of episode 3, whereas at the end of episode 5,
I guess
you're
there's
like,
a little
man,
bit
this is
of
pretty
hope
bad.
because Luke's got his hand. He survived because of the tube slide and stuff. So I mean, there's hope in that too. I guess. So.
I just think all the good guys got smashed at the end of episode 3. So I don't know. You see, for me, between episode 4 and episode 5, the reason it was difficult was because if you were to ask me what's the best Star Wars movie, I would have to say that it's Empire because I think it has. I rewatched that one the most. But in terms of the best movie of the two, I always have a soft spot in my heart for episode 4 because every time I watch it, I remember what it felt like as a real little kid to watch it, and there's a vibe to that movie that still stays with me all these years later. Like when I see the stormtroopers, I remember how scared I was and how creeped out Vader, made me, and I just thought Han Solo was the coolest thing in the galaxy. So I come from two different perspectives on it.
I get that because I still have a soft spot for Phantom Menace just based on the fact that was the first movie I was able to go into a theater with my daughter and go see. So yeah, it's like go down in history as probably the worst Star Wars film ever, but it's you keep a soft spot because it's like I got to go take my daughter to that.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly why Episode 3 is my favorite movie of all time. Is because Episode 5 to me is a better Star Wars movie, but my favorite movie of all time is Episode 3 because AJ and I went, and we had the time of our lives at that premiere. It was the coolest thing I had done in terms of a Star Wars experience up to that point, and so that always kind of sticks with me. So every time I watch it, there's this aura of fun that I'm having. It's just I'm reminded of what a blast we had. So
I could see that. Episode 4 for me, I will say this for it. It's really hard. I tried to do prep for this show. I swear I tried, but I mean, without doing actual research, of course.
Right?
But just trying to form my arguments and figure out which comparisons
which means
you can draw.
thought about something on the drive over here.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was a long drive.
Right. You had to stop and get a drink. You had to think about stuff while you were waiting for that, too.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I had to ogle the chick at Redbox, all that stuff.
Priorities.
Sorry, that was something that happened before the recording. That story won't be explained.
Yes.
That's just going to have to be the bounty hunter on Ord Mantell.
Otherwise known as the part of the show you hope your girlfriend doesn't listen to.
Just like the rest of it.
Nice.
Anyway, one thing that episode 4 has going for it is there is a certain lightness to it because there's nothing, when it was made, there was nothing else to compare it to. So everything you see, you just take at face value and you can easily just get sucked into the narrative and roll with it. Where episode 5, it's a great story, but it's not quite as special because it's already basing itself off of something that was established. Like episode 5 takes those characters, but those characters couldn't have gone to those places without having been established in the previous movie. So it's a interdependency like that. You can have all the fun in the world with episode 4, and they were very smart in not trying to make another episode 4 in episode 5. Like they had to take it in a different direction.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's one of the things that is one of the best features of episode 5, and it's one of the reasons why I love the prequels. It was a different story, and I completely agree with you. It's not something we had already seen, and I think it takes the elements that were in the first movie and kind of puts them on steroids, which was really cool. But and one of the things that I've always liked about it is there is that dark vibe to it. It's just Vader is at his most evil in that movie.
Yep.
Then you get Boba Fett in there, and the rebels are basically on the run the entire movie, with the exception of the first part where Luke Skywalker gets all messed up in the snow. But they're never comfortable, even when they're in Cloud City. Maybe for a couple minutes of screen time, they're sitting there just chilling, and then all of a sudden Vader gets them. So there's a definite darkness to that movie that I think is really, really cool.
And yet the sense of adventure is still there. Like it's not hard to watch like a Christopher Nolan Batman movie.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
It would have been so easy with all the bad stuff that happens to our heroes in that movie to make it completely difficult to watch.
Yeah.
And instead of beating you over the head with, you should feel rotten because the people you're cheering for feel rotten right now. They have some way of
right.
Not making it like enjoyable to watch them suffer, but it's presented in such a way that you want to see what happens next rather than dwelling on how rotten things are at that point in time.
Yeah, they added those little bits of humor right at the points where it was, that teeny little beat of something positive instead of constantly browbeating you with how crappy things are going for our heroes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the comedic timing is so great in some of those scenes. Like, would it help if I got unpushed? It might.
Yeah, right?
It's so great. Harrison Ford just carried that with his humor in that so well. That's one of the things in episode 7 that I loved is you got that timing back.
Yeah.
The dialogue was so perfect for Han Solo. When he cracked a joke, it was absolutely classic.
Yep. And I think in episode 5 it really expanded the character of Han Solo in a cool way, because it went more into the sarcastic from episode 4, but it also went it kind of took it in that heroic direction, whereas he was pretty much just a scoundrel in the first movie. Up until he blows up the Death Star, he was still that that freelance guy for hire just wanting to get a payday, but they kind of played up the heroism in the second one. So it made his character, it took his character in a little bit different directions, I thought.
And then come episode 7, he was just an old guy that didn't care about anything.
He went back to being a scoundrel.
He was just such a smart ass about everything.
I loved him in episode 7.
See, but we got into this conversation last week at your place about this, and you disagreed with me entirely on this. You said, JT, that it was a cop-out, script writing-wise and character-wise, to have Han Solo go back to being a scoundrel in episode 7.
Yeah.
And I absolutely disagree with that, because like you're saying, all those aspects that they played up and developed in Empire Strikes Back, he wasn't really heroic in Empire Strikes Back. Okay, first thing he did was try to take off because he had to deal with the bounty on his head. So screw the rebellion again. He's going to go save his own skin. Then the thing collapses and he's kind of stuck with Leia. So he does help her and make sure she gets off the planet safely, but he's not doing it out of a huge sense of heroism like, I'm going to save the princess. Like, well, we're in the tunnel together. My ship is the only one that's going to get us out, and I don't dislike you, so I don't want to leave you for dead. So
that's a very interesting way of looking at it.
They just kind of ended up on the ship together, and then things happened, and there was a legitimate chemistry there. But all of that, he's always had a very like smallish view, and that's where his clash goes with the other main characters.
Yeah.
Like Luke and Leia have this greater sense of purpose. Luke with his Jedi training and Leia with her politician thing. Han has always just been about like his immediate surroundings. Like, as long as his little bubble of the universe is taken care of, then he's cool. But generally, 9 times out of 10, he's going to make the decision that's best for him. It just so happens that a lot of the events in the original trilogy that were best for everybody happen to be best for him too.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I still see it as heroic. I mean, he, and when he went into the carbonite, he said, Chewie, the princess, you have to protect her. It wasn't, hey, come get me when I'm thawed out or something. He was worried about the princess. He was, in the whole movie, he was basically carting her around, trying not to get caught. I mean, I know she was on the ship and they didn't really have a choice, but still, when push came to shove and he has to go in the carbonite, like his thinking is, worry about her, not me. So that's why I kind of saw it as more of like a heroic aspect of his character.
Ironic that the threat of being frozen in carbonite is what thawed his icy exterior.
Oh my God.
Sorry, I had that one for like a minute.
Oh. You set that up perfectly. Excellent.
No, but you're right though. As the movie goes on, Han becomes more heroic, and especially when he feels like his fate is sealed, that's when he starts thinking about others.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just thinking about that too while you were naming all that off. That I was like, he never really showed, like, he showed glimpses of being a hero, but it wasn't till like episode 7 that he was really putting himself out there. Like, he was the first one to come up and go, okay, there's got to be a way to blow that up. Like, I'm going to go take care of it. You're not going to like how, and he's just like, oh, well, we're going to go in. We're going to plant these explosives. The Han from 3 movies ago, I don't think he would have
volunteered to.
Not in a million friggin' years. Not unless, there was a lot of credits that were going onto his ship at the end of that.
Right.
And even then, he probably still would have tried to talk somebody else into it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. I guess it was kind of like a heroic side of him. So maybe the episode 7 Han is kind of both aspects. Okay, that's good. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, he's always been the reluctant hero to me. He didn't actually want to go out and make a name for himself as a hero, but it just so happened that circumstances presented opportunities to him to be heroic.
Yeah. Yeah, I love his character in both movies, in 4 and 5. I think they're very similar. I think I'll always have a soft spot for him in episode 4, though, because it just he's very different from the other two. Luke is the shining golden good guy who's he just wants to save the galaxy kind of thing, and Princess Leia wants to save the galaxy, and then there's Han Solo who just wants to make a crap ton of money.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool.
Luke didn't want to save the galaxy. He wanted to make out with his sister.
Right? And despite what a complete and utter jackass would think, namely my cousin Chris and people who agree with him, the Han Solo character was not ruined by the special editions, because one goddamn laser bolt does not change a character that's been in 4 movies. So that didn't bother me. With the whole Han and Greedo shot first, that changed nothing for me.
Can we get into that for a minute, though?
No, because I'm going to like blow the microphone out, because that agitates me so much that I can't even stand it.
Yeah, I got to keep the editing to a minimum on this one.
Yeah. Notice I've been good about that. I think I've got one to bleep out, unless you don't mind GD. But
I'm not playing devil's advocate. I just want to know, with the change being made to the special edition, do you think it in any way alters the character at all?
No. He got shot at. Who cares if he shot first? It's like a split second of time. He was the same damn character. I will argue till I'm blue in the face with anybody that says differently. And the reason being is because the whole argument that they're making, people that say that, is, well, Han shot first, not Greedo. This is crap. It totally changes Han Solo. And yet I guarantee you, every single person that has that opinion does not go back and watch episode 5, the rest of episode 4, episode 6, episode 7, and lean back and go, Han Solo's totally ruined for me. I can't watch Han Solo now. I can't watch him. They don't. He's still super cool to them. And yet they're going to come up with this stupid-ass opinion of, well, because of the order of the shots, now it totally changes the Han character. Does it? Because you're not complaining about Han's character. You're saying it completely changes, but you're sitting there watching him, when you sit down and watch movies going, Han's a badass, just like you did before. so it doesn't change it. It's a stupid conversation point for people that want to nitpick. Well, George Lucas ruined my childhood. Shut up.
George Lucas gave you your childhood.
Exactly. He could do whatever the hell he wants with the movies, and all he did was alter some friggin' graphics. He added the dumb Jabba scene that didn't need to be in there. He added a musical scene. We went over this in a previous episode. Other than that, it's extra graphics. Who gives a damn?
Ooh, okay, but here's a criteria for comparison between the two movies. Think of all the stuff that was added and altered in Episode 4 compared to Episode 5. There's so much more in Episode 4 than in Episode 5 that got changed. So can that be evidence that 5 right out the gate was a better movie because it needed less updating?
You could argue that, but I think that's more of a technological thing rather than a quality of the movie thing.
They had double the budget.
Almost triple. Actually, more than triple the budget, if I remember right. If I remember my numbers right.
Just over double.
Was it?
11 million for 4, 23 million for 5.
Okay.
11 million?
I don't remember that from the Rinsler book, but whatever. I'll trust you for now.
I'll trust the internet.
Yeah,
It's on the
point
internet.
is
It
there.
must be true.
Yeah, I mean, he could do a lot more of what he wanted to do in Episode 5 because of the advances in technology. I mean, you could say the same thing about Episode 6. There's less fixed in Episode 6 than there was in Episode 5 because he could do more at that particular time when he was filming it in 1981, or 1982, whichever it was. So, yeah, I don't know if it necessarily speaks to the quality of the movie. I just think it speaks to the quality of the technology used to make the movies, really.
Yeah, could be. I just wonder if the lack of editing is because of a lack of shots that needed fixed because of him getting his vision correct, or him getting better with the existing tools and being able to get shots out of that same equipment that he didn't previously know how to do.
Yeah, like I say, it's a good question, but for me, I really think it's just a matter of the technology available.
I will say that's something in Episode 4's favor. It did have less budget. It was the first time they tried a lot of this stuff. They invented so many technologies for that. And still, they were hamstrung by a whole bunch of production limitations. Like, one of my favorite little tidbits about Episode 4 is the trash compactor scene. And you probably know this already, JT. Steve, you might not, but the Chewbacca suit. There was only one of them. The budget just didn't allow for more than one Chewbacca suit. Did you ever notice that Chewbacca is never in the water in that scene?
Yep.
It's specifically because they couldn't get the suit wet. So they had to invent a story point to get him out of the water in the compactor. And that's why you see him pushing on the door and standing up on the garbage. It worked out beautifully for story,
yeah.
But it was actually a limitation of the physical suit and the budget that they had.
That also explains the crazy original way the script was written about him being completely afraid of the water or whatever. And
yeah, that's right.
Like that whole scene when in the past month or so when the Wookiee roars on Twitter, Peter Mayhew was posting all the photos of the original script. Like, that whole scene was a lot different. Like, Chewie was like a little baby during that whole thing. Like, he was scared of, I'm pretty sure he was scared of the water itself, much less, the monster that was living in the water and stuff. And, Han was basically trying to pull Chew out, by his hands, trying to get him to move because he was like paralyzed in the water or in the trash, whatever it was. Like, I have to go back and read it again. I don't remember it 100%, but I just remember reading that going like, wow. Like, that's totally different than what they shot it as.
So there was a logistical reason with the costume, but also there was actually a reason written into the script as well to explain it. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I love stuff like that. That stuff is so cool. There's a whole bunch of stuff, especially if you get into the costuming details, all kinds of inconsistencies and crazy stuff in Episode 4 that they were able to fix for Episode 5. But that's part of the charm of Episode 4 is you had this completely untested water, no pun intended, where they made it up on the fly because they didn't have any template to go against.
Yeah. Well, they said in the Empire of Dreams documentary that it was like over a year before they had any shots even begin to come out of ILM because they had to build all of the computers and everything. And back to one of your previous points that you brought up just a minute ago. I mean, that at the time was when episode 4 came out. Part of the reason it was so enormous was because no one had ever seen a movie that looked like that. And just the special effects were so realistic, especially for that time, that it was absolutely revolutionary in almost every way. And that adds to the aura of just mystery to that movie, and just that makes it such a phenomenal experience to watch. Especially, that's the one thing I wish I could do, man. If I had a time machine, I'd like to go back and see, like the first time I see that movie, like have my memory erased of episode 4, and go back and watch it as somebody who's like living in that time when you've never seen anything like that. So, because the movie's going to be awesome, but I would love to see it from the perspective of people that were like, say, our age in I'm 40. What would that movie look like to a 40-year-old in 1977?
Yeah.
I would love to have that perspective on it, because it would just add another layer to that movie.
Right. I've always thought that too, as a really old horror movie buff. When I have a copy of Nosferatu on DVD, and you think about like when that thing was on people's, they were paying a nickel or whatever to go see this at some movie house, in 1910 or whatever it was, and you're like, we stare at it now like, this crap, but you imagine
right?
Back then, like how much fear that probably put into people back then who had never seen anything like that. So you think about 1977 and what your expectations were walking into a theater, and you get what you get watching Star Wars the first time. It's probably pretty insane.
Yeah, and I think that's if we're talking, as I said at the outset of the conversation, personally, I think that the better Star Wars movie is Episode 5, but I think the better movie is Episode 4. Episode 4 just has always struck me quicker than Empire. There's just something about it. I can't even explain it, but there's just something when I watch it. It's just I think the highs are a little higher and the lows are a little lower, because it was. I couldn't even explain it. And again, maybe it is because I first saw it when I was 4 years old, so that I'm kind of in that mindset of the first time I saw it, 1.5 times. But it always seems to me like it's just a little more, there's, the peaks and valleys are a little more extreme in that movie to me.
The two movies are almost inverse of each other. The way the first one builds slowly to a giant climactic battle at the end, and the second one starts with a giant climactic battle, and then goes into the personal stuff later. I love that though, because the first movie you get that giant shot of the Star Destroyer chasing the Tantive 4, so you're like thrown into the action right away, hooks you right away. They already had the audience hooked when you go into episode 5, that you're there because you loved the first one so much.
Yeah.
So instead of having a big battle in space right away, they just show that same Star Destroyer just doing its routine business, so to speak, and throwing some probes out there. So it's a nice quiet beginning to what quickly becomes a very loud movie.
Yeah,
and that plays to your point, John, about the highs and the lows of episode 4, where when A New Hope came out, you had to treat this as quote unquote a normal movie. You had to grab people, you had to bring them up, you had to take them down, you had to hold their hand through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Then just like you said, AJ, come episode 5, nobody was, well, you can't say nobody, but the majority of people were not going to see that movie as their first Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 people were probably already hooked from 4, so you didn't need anybody to hold your hand through it anymore, so you could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Same thing with what we went through last year with episode 7.
Yep, exactly.
Nobody was going to see that movie just to see the movie. Like, everybody knew going into it that there was 6 movies of backstory to this, so they could kind of go wherever they wanted with the story, with the humor, with the characters, whatever, and we all should have known that. Now, granted, there's a lot of people that probably just jumped on the bandwagon when it was shoved down our throats for 11 months last year before the release.
Yeah.
Probably the same thing with episode 5 back in 1980, though.
Yeah, there could have been.
Think about it. Star Wars was, the first one was so big that there were probably a lot of people that just went based on the hype. I mean, in fact, that could be the case with our parents, because when I saw it in 1980, I don't know if they had seen episode 4 yet. I wonder if it was just one of those things that was so big and they saw the ads, and maybe I saw a commercial on TV or saw some toys or something and was just fascinated, and they took me because my little 4-year-old brain was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want to watch the movie.
Yeah.
It could be, because
So-
I mean, I've seen it personally happen twice between episode 7 and episode 1. There was a huge push when they announced the prequels in '99. They really and almost. You can almost go out on a limb and say they might have shoved it down our throats more in 98, 99 than they did last year.
I think they did, because there was, at that point, there was a 16-year gap between movies as opposed to this one being a 10-year gap.
Tough to compare because there's way more ways to shove things down our throat now.
Oh, definitely.
People, they weren't assaulting us on Twitter and social media and all that stuff back then.
Yeah,
you
that's
you
true.
had to go through stores and television commercials and stuff, but I mean, who knows? Between 1977 and 1980, there could have been grant I was -3 at the time, so who knows? But there could have been
-3.
a huge push of just shoving Star Wars down your throat through radio and TV and inside a. Oh God, let's name some old stores. Let's some Gold Circle,
Hills.
some Hills, yeah.
Kmart,
Oh,
yeah,
my-
there was probably a huge push in all those stores back then.
KB Toys, Kitty City, Children's Palace.
wow. Good memory on those.
Yeah, but even that might have been a new thing. I don't know how movies were promoted before that, but I think Star Wars was the first mega franchise to come out, to where that kind of marketing push hadn't been seen before, because merchandising in general was a new concept for movies. That's one of the well-told stories about Star Wars, is how Lucas was smart enough to retain merchandising rights.
Yeah, that was the empty box campaign. Yeah.
Yep.
That's certainly where he made a huge portion of his fortune, is retaining the rights to all that stuff.
But yeah, as much of risks as they took in episode 5, because there were a lot of them, really. It seems safe now because we're just used to all the concepts, but let's look at Yoda on the surface. That was a really silly concept.
Yeah.
You're going to hype up this famed Jedi Master, and you roll out a Muppet.
Yep.
That could have gone over so terribly.
Especially when you look at the concept art that they had for him.
Yep.
Most of those were just awful.
Then you take the idea of Vader becoming Luke's father, which was not in the original plans, so that could have gone over like a fart in church. I mean, there were so many things that
I love that saying. We're talking a lot about farts on this show.
yeah, well, there's so much stuff that they did that really was daring in Empire Strikes Back, but you can never be as daring as putting out the entire movie that could have been a bomb as episode 4 was.
Yeah. And this comes back to my complaint about episode 7 and why, when I'm arguing with people that, Disney got the feel of Star Wars, and I say not quite, because part of the feel of it to me is doing something original. And Star Wars, when it came out, was absolutely original. And when they made episode 1, it was a totally different story. So it was original from what we had seen. And episode 7 was not. It was very similar to things we've already seen. They picked and chose stuff. Picked and chose, nice. Picked and chose. Sorry for that. That they picked and chose things that they knew would, people go, oh, I remember that. That's so cool. And then they just, put it in the movie and away they went. There wasn't a lot of risk taking. And episode 4 was the ultimate risk. And it was so revolutionary and so difficult to pull off that it was almost like a perfect storm of amazing coincidences to get that, to get it made and to get it put out. And being someone who has the J.W. Rinsler Making of Star Wars, the episode 4 book, and, basically having the Empire of Dreams documentary memorized, the stuff that went on behind the scenes of that movie to get it together was just absolutely absolutely fascinating in the way they use, basically popsicle sticks and chewing gum to get this movie together.
Yeah.
And if you look at the numbers I've been staring at the whole time here, episode 5 was a bigger, well, I can't say bigger, but episode 5 was a flop compared to A New Hope. New Hope came out with $1 million or $11 million on the budget, opened up in the weekend for at $1.5 million, domestic at $460 million, worldwide $786. Yeah, double the money for Empire, opened up to a just under a $5 million opening weekend. Domestic was only $290 with a worldwide at $534. So domestic and worldwide, it didn't even make the money that episode 4 did.
That's crazy. I would have thought it would have been a little bigger.
And you think about, under $5 million for a sequel for something as big as what episode 4 was, that's almost a quote unquote flop.
What page are you looking that up on?
Just the first thing that came up. It says numbers.com, movies, franchises, Star Wars summaries.
Are those just opening weekend numbers?
They have domestic opening weekend, domestic box office, and domestic worldwide, or worldwide box office.
So what was the total gross for each?
Total for each worldwide was $786 on A New Hope and $534 for Empire.
Wow.
Is that adjusted for inflation?
Yeah, granted, you're talking, well,
That works opposite then, because that would mean that it made even less than that because it's 3 years newer, which means the dollar is worth less.
Yeah, true.
and then you go to Return, and it was almost just as bad. The opening weekend, they almost made their $32 million budget right back, but domestic was 309, which was still under A New Hope, and worldwide was 572, which was still under New Hope.
Well, I mean, New Hope, though, was one of those things where
New Hope didn't get beat worldwide until episode 3 came out.
well, look at Titanic, dude.
So,
I mean, it's the biggest movie ever, that and Avatar, because they were just if you I mean, I think we're going to have more example of that when they put out Avatar 2, 3 and 4.
Yeah.
You're not going to have anywhere near the box office numbers for the sequels as you are the original, just because. And in fact, if I remember right,
I was wrong, by the way.
What?
Phantom Menace beat it.
Yeah, I was going to say. I know
They went over $1 billion.
Yeah, Phantom Menace I know was the biggest of the prequels, and but then again, look why it was the first one.
Yeah.
And it was
Like
the return.
you said earlier, 16-year gap. There was
Yeah.
a big push. For
It
all
was the
that.
return of Star Wars.
I think you're always going to have that because no matter how many people go to see a movie, not all of them are going to like it enough to see it when it comes out again.
Yeah, you're going to have that drop off of people that were like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't doubt that you're going to see a huge drop coming for episode 8, honestly, just because I
Do you really think there will be a huge drop? I don't know if it'll be huge, but
maybe not 90-degree, roller coaster drop, but there's going to be I think there's going to be a pretty substantial drop because you're not going to have that 10-year gap and that crazy push of Star Wars the way that we got it last year.
You're not getting $2 billion out of episode 8. $1 billion, yeah, probably. But to expect another $2 billion out of the next episode is just ridiculous.
We had 10 years of nothing unless you count Clone Wars, and now we're getting we got one in 2015, we're getting one this year, we're going to get one next year, we're going to get one year after that, we're going to get one the year after that. You're kind of
very true.
Kind of saturating the market with Star Wars, and honestly, you're probably going to get less and less interest as it goes down the line, really.
Marvel's going the opposite way, though, actually.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't looked at any of those numbers, so I'm not sure.
See, that's why I wonder, because I read that about the Marvel movies, how they just, they're always so big. And
I did read that they're saying Disney's going to dominate 2016 between the Marvel movies and then closing out the year with Rogue One.
Oh, yeah.
Disney's going to be raking in the cash this year on this stuff.
They had to have dominated last year just on the strength of Star Wars alone.
Oh, without a doubt.
You don't put out a movie that sets the was it the all-time box office record?
It was like it was all-time box office in America or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall gross, it's still what is it
second or third?
Yeah, it's no lower than third. I know that.
But if it's second or third of all time, I'm pretty sure that means it's tops for the year.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
easy.
by far. Well, I mean, don't forget
the way Disney's been working. That's you probably still got what 2 or 3 Marvel movies last year too.
Well, you had Age of Ultron.
Was that last year?
Yeah.
I was thinking that was the year before for some reason.
Yeah, you had Age of so
So you had
they
Age
had the
of
Avengers.
Ultron,
Yeah,
you had Ant-Man, I think last year.
yeah.
So yeah, they made a pretty damn good penny last year on making some movies, didn't they?
Yep.
Well, we'll see this year because they've got Civil War coming out, which is going to be huge. They've got Finding Dory. They got the sequel to Finding Nemo coming out there. I don't know how Zootopia's been doing, but those always gross really well.
That was a great movie.
So their animated stuff is strong. Their Marvel lineup is strong. And they've got Star Wars yet to come.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be big. I don't think the drop off is going to be as big because I think the reaction to Episode 7 was so strong that I think a lot of people are going to want to go see Episode 8. And you know what's going to drag people into the theater to see Episode 8? All the people that wanted to see Luke Skywalker in Episode 7 that got royally screwed. I mean, those are the people that were like, damn it, I'm going Episode 8. They better show me Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, you think about the 7 movies. 7 was probably the first one that left you with like a legitimate cliffhanger.
Yes.
Yeah,
at the end of it. So yeah, it is going to make you want to see what the hell's going on with the awkward 2-minute stare down at the end of the movie there.
Right.
I hope the movie begins with Han Solo's funeral.
Well, they can do that. They have to build suspense for it, considering the whole hook for Episode 9 is that he's coming back and to kick everybody's ass. And
I thought you were going to say considering the hole in his chest.
No, I was not. He's alive. I already came up.
They wouldn't make a T-shirt if it wasn't true.
See, and I own it. Yep.
Officially licensed and everything,
exactly.
right?
Right. It said Han Solo lives, and there were no hash marks.
That shirt's so legit, it's got George Lucas's autograph on the tag.
All right. Oh, man.
So back on topic.
Yeah, back on topic.
Remember those movies that came out a long time ago?
Yeah, in a galaxy far, far away.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about soundtrack?
Well, we've discussed that. The Episode 4 soundtrack is absolutely legendary.
Well, again, it's the same criteria though. You've got a movie that's absolutely legendary for having nothing come before it, and then you have something that takes all those concepts and turns it on its ear.
I just think that the quote unquote hooks were stronger in the Episode 4 one, and I don't think it's because of
really Yoda's theme, the asteroid field, the Imperial March.
Imperial March and the asteroid field I'll give you, but there are so many other ones that you can name from Episode 4. As I said, like you can listen to that. There's so many Star Wars fans like me who can listen to that soundtrack, and in your head, you know what part of the movie it is. Whereas in Empire, it's more difficult. And same thing with Jedi, because I have all of them, the double length versions that are basically the movie from start to finish. It's not like a greatest hits, and it's how it is.
This is, again, one of those times where I wish we could go back in time and have a clean slate to observe this stuff, because the themes that are introduced in Empire Strikes Back, namely Imperial March, I mean, it beats you over the head. It's all throughout that movie.
Yep.
And Yoda's theme. Those two are so ingrained in the Star Wars overall musical landscape that I wonder what that was like to hear it for the first time. Like, I remember paying attention to the soundtrack in Force Awakens, and yeah, it was new, and I was excited to hear it, but by this point, the musical language of Star Wars is so established that anything you hear, you're just like, yeah, that fits. You don't really have to even evaluate it anymore. You just take it at face value.
Yeah.
But I wondered, like, the first time you heard the Imperial March, because it didn't exist yet before that movie, did it blow audiences away, or was it just like, well, that's kind of weird?
Probably. That was probably the thing that everybody was humming on the way out of the theater that night and stuff like that. That's one of the ones that you're definitely that one got locked in your memory.
Yeah.
After the first time hearing that one, definitely.
It's one of those perfect pieces of music. It perfectly fits what it's written for.
Yeah,
for sure. Yoda's theme, by the way, that's the when he's pulling the X-wing out of the swamp, right? The
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I was on the right thing, but yeah, I don't think it's because the themes repeat, because they do repeat, but it's just there's more.
Do you also get Han and Leia's theme in Empire, or was that written for New Hope?
I think it was for. I think it was for episode 5.
Okay, that's the one that sounds very similar to the love theme in Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah, because they didn't really have. They didn't really have any real romantic moments. They didn't have any of that in episode 4 between them, so there wasn't any place to put it. So yeah, it was episode 5.
Yeah, so I mean, those are 3 really big pieces of music for the Star Wars universe, right there.
Yeah, but I think, if you're listening to the music itself, I mean, obviously the Cantina themes, everyone knows both of those. Binary Sunset. There's the dun 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 and stuff. I mean, there's all these different ones that you can, if I were to put those on, like the different pieces from episode 4, and asked you what's going on in the movie, you could tell me and do that way more often than you could if I did that with episode 5.
True. Okay, I'll give you that.
I think that's why that one's stronger to me.
I wonder how many more of those themes held on through the rest of the saga. Obviously, the Imperial March had plenty of places to show up. Yoda's theme had plenty of places to show up. A lot of the cues that you're talking about are specific moments of A New Hope.
Yeah, like when R2 and 3PO were walking out of the escape pod.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. Run, dun, dun, dun. Like, I mean, that was really a one-off, but you know exactly what's happening when you hear it. And what's the other one I just thought of? There's another one I was thinking. Oh, well, obviously the Cantina.
Yeah.
Which they tried to recreate that in episode 7 by having their own Cantina theme kind of a thing.
Right.
So, yeah, I think the soundtrack is a really obvious point where I think episode 4 is better. But
so do you think that Irvin Kershner made better use of the budget in episode 5? I mean, he had more to work with, and he did more stuff with it. I mean, there's a lot of changes visually from 4 to 5.
Yeah, I would say that he did. I thought he was a great addition to the whole saga, because I think if you ask anybody that he's the, besides George Lucas, he's the one that the people know.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people know
Richard Marquand?
Yeah. So you're either going to know George Lucas or Irvin Kershner, and he's the one that I think it's universally celebrated. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that ever has a problem with Empire, which is why I think that Empire is the best Star Wars movie. It just, is it a better movie in general than episode 4? But
isn't that funny? It's funny that people are kind of turned off by the fact that they assumed that J.J. Abrams was going to be the new George Lucas, and he was going to, captain the ship through the entire trilogy and all that. But the original formula wasn't that way. It was George Lucas started the first one, and then he was executive producer on the second one, and that's the same thing going on with episode 8. They got another director, and J.J. Abrams is the EP. So,
and they're doing that again with episode 8 and 9 with Rian Johnson and Colin Trevorrow.
Yeah, it's just a progressive handoff. I think that's perfect.
Well, again, it's one of those things they wanted to do to go back to the style of the original trilogy. They didn't want one guy just doing the whole thing like the prequels. And again, it was based on people complaining about the prequels, so we have to do the opposite of that. So, so that's one of the reasons. But
well, I think that's one of the strengths of the original trilogy over the prequels, was that you had some contrasting voices coming in artistically, where George Lucas just had carte blanche in the prequels. Everyone just said, yeah, whatever you want. And I think creatively it helps to have a little bit of conflict there. Not outright conflict, but different voices in the mix.
No, I agree with that, because I've always likened it to being in a band and having a producer. Almost all bands need a producer, because you always write a song and think, oh, that's awesome, but it's probably not. With very few exceptions, you need a producer to come in there and polish the edges and make changes that you can't hear because you're so close to it. And I think that's what the directors did. And I think the greatest thing that Irvin Kershner did, again, was Star Wars was such a big hit, and it was so important culturally and everything, and he actually expanded on it and made it better.
Yeah, he didn't treat it as too precious.
Yeah. And he again, taking chances. He brought in a love story into what was basically, an action movie, and he did that. He brought in humor, which you could be a little heavy-handed with if you're not careful. And again, he made Star Wars better, which so many sequels don't really do. It may be as good, but it doesn't take that mythos and improve upon it.
And he didn't do it by explaining all the stuff that was started in 4.
Yes. Yeah. Again, original story. Basically, he took it from the outlook that everybody already knows what happened. I mean, there's no flashbacks or anything. It's just you knew what happened, so let's move forward, which is cool. That's a pretty ballsy move.
Yeah. Yeah. The characters did go in different directions, and everyone focuses on Vader so much as the transformation there. Like, that's when he actually got like some dimensionality to him. I thought that right there was a really bold direction to take, because it would have been easy to take that one-dimensional thug character in Episode 4 and just keep him as a thug. The fact that they built in any sort of personality to him, and I won't say backstory so much at that point, because they didn't really focus on that. They weren't like, hey, remember that you used to be Anakin, and had all. They just
right.
They just moved straight forward to, okay, he was the big bad thug in the first one, and then you find out that as big and bad as he was, not only is he stronger and more vicious than you thought, but also he's not even the top of the food chain. Like, the Emperor was not mentioned at all in A New Hope, was he?
No.
Yeah, right. So the fact that there even was an Emperor at all.
Oh, wait, no. The Emperor has dissolved the Senate permanently.
Oh, right, yeah, that one offhanded mention. But then
yeah,
that was all we knew. But then in the second one, you got Vader tearing around, choking out admirals left and right, and then all it takes is a phone call from the Emperor, and he's like, all right, screw it, get us out of the asteroid field. Like, he cuts off everything because even Vader has to answer to somebody.
I guess so. I don't really see it that way, though. Honestly, I think I would disagree with you, because I've always said that the Episode 5 Vader is the most evil Vader that we've seen, and I think he was the bad guy in Episode 4, and then he was the baddest guy in Episode 5,
but not the baddest, because he answered to somebody in that movie.
But from what we see on the screen, even when he did the reveal of being Luke's father, it was based on, be my teammate so we can go kick this other guy's ass. It wasn't, well, because I still have, there's that little bit of good in me. It was just, no. I mean, everything he did in that movie was just killing people and selfish, and there wasn't anything there. It just took the bad guy and made him badder. I mean, you didn't really...
I can see that. Especially like you said, he didn't tell Luke just for the hell of it. He told him because he wanted Luke by his side so they could overthrow the Emperor.
Yeah, he wanted more power on his side.
And that way he could be, the top of the food chain, and Luke, you could be number 2. You can have my scraps.
Right?
I'll get you a new hand, bro. It's cool.
Right? Yeah, I don't think you really see the progression of the Vader character into really different areas until Episode 6, because that's when they have that scene when Luke surrenders himself and he says, "It is too late for me, son." And that's the first time you see a crack in the armor of, I'm just the bad guy. It's, wait a minute. That's like him admitting, like, yeah, I was a good guy. And now he's going, oh, I can't.
I think the fact that he wasn't trying to kill Luke in Episode 5 shows a crack in the armor.
Well, but don't forget, he wasn't trying to kill him because he had to deliver him to the Emperor. He was trying to freeze him in carbonite.
Yeah, but why deliver him to the Emperor when you could just kill him?
Because he was ordered to, like you said, there's somebody above Vader calling for it.
No, it was Vader's idea.
They prepped the chamber.
Well,
they tested it on Han, and then they were setting it up the second time specifically for Luke.
Yeah, exactly. And the Emperor, he basically said, yeah, make that happen. Bring him to me.
Did you guys have a stroke or something? The whole dialogue between the Emperor and Vader in that scene was the Emperor saying, the son of Skywalker must not become a Jedi.
If he could be turned.
And then Vader said, yeah, if he could be turned. So basically the Emperor says, go kill that kid, will you? And Vader's like, no, maybe we should not do that.
No, he says, can it be done? He says he will join us or die.
Vader was the one that told him to prep the chamber for Luke again. Maybe he was already going off on his own.
Well, yeah,
saying I'm going to keep him alive instead of
to free Skywalker for his journey to the Emperor.
Yeah.
So he was supposed to take him to the Emperor.
Right, but the whole way the conversation went down between the Emperor and Vader was Emperor says, "Go kill this guy." Vader says, "I think maybe we could make use of him instead." And the Emperor says, "Okay, sure." And then Vader ends with, "Okay, we're going to do that, but if he won't come along, then I'll kill him for you." So it's like, we'll do my thing, but if my thing doesn't work out, we'll do your thing.
I see what you're saying because it wasn't spoken on screen, but I think the inference was there that they wanted to turn him to the dark side. They didn't want to just off him. I think that inference, to me, the inference was there. I've never looked at it the way you're looking at it right now.
That was right in the dialogue. They said, if we could turn him.
Again, I get it. It on screen, it never says, that it never shows the Emperor saying for sure, no, go get him, don't kill him. And no, dude, you don't have to call up the clip.
I want to hear this right now.
No, I know exactly what it says. I just watched the movies. I actually did show prep. I know exactly what it says. I'm saying I know what it says on the screen, but to me it was always inferred they want him alive.
That wasn't the original idea, though.
Well,
the original idea was the Emperor wanted him dead, and Vader said maybe alive would suit us more.
Is that what you thought when you watched the movie?
Well, what I always wondered about that, I know for a fact that it was Vader's idea not to kill him. But my question has always been, was it so Vader could have help killing the Emperor, or was it because he wanted to spare his son's life?
That's a good question.
Was Luke a tool to his own ends, or was he looking out from a paternal standpoint?
That's a good question. That's an interesting question. I think from the, from what I think the Vader character, the way he is depicted in Episode 5, I think it was a power thing, not a paternal thing. I don't think the paternal thing really came into it until, Luke Skywalker was really beating on him on the good side of him in Episode 6, because he didn't have that push in Episodes 4 or 5 of someone trying to influence his good side. He had nothing but the Emperor influencing his dark side, the dark side of him. There was nothing about the good. And then all of a sudden when Luke Skywalker's trying to bring it back out, that's when, I feel the conflict in you. There is no conflict. Oh yeah, there was. But Luke Skywalker, awakened that in him.
So
no pun intended.
Yeah.
It was the part when Vader went on the little light circle and he was talking to the hologram. All right, that's what I'm
little pepper shaker.
That's what I'm trying to track down on here. YouTube's not very useful. I think I got it though.
Yeah, let's hope it's not like at some ungodly loud volume.
Yeah, let's hope for the best.
Production on the fly.
Yeah, right. Yep.
What is thy bidding, my master?
There is a great disturbance in the Force.
How great was this recut by Ian McDermott, by the way?
We have a new enemy. The young rebel who destroyed the Death Star. I have no doubt this boy is the offspring of Anakin Skywalker.
How is that possible?
Search your feelings, Lord Vader. You will know it to be true.
He looks like he's kneeling on a Simon board.
Destroy us.
He's just a boy. Obi-Wan can no longer help him.
The Force is strong with him. The son of Skywalker must not become a Jedi.
There you go.
If he could be turned, he would become a powerful ally.
Yes. He would be a great asset.
So clearly the Emperor was not thinking that.
Done.
He will join us or die, Master.
He will join us.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said he must not become a Jedi. He never really specified had to kill him.
Yeah.
Maybe he was already
Luke said, "I'll never join you." Emperor was referring to us. Emperor meant you and me, Vader, whereas Vader was saying, "I'm your father. Join me." He says, "I'll never join you." Luke says, "I'm not going with you, Vader." He didn't say, screw the Emperor. I'm never, I'm sorry. If you want to talk semantics, that's what it said. And it was inferred that the Emperor wanted him, that Vader and the Emperor basically agreed that they wanted to turn Luke to the dark side. So you can't kill him.
My points of evidence are this. One, as soon as Vader pitches that they could turn him, then the Emperor is clearly surprised by this idea, like he hadn't already had it himself. So when he says that...
Rule of 2.
When he says that the son of Skywalker must not become a Jedi, the inference of having to kill him is there because when the idea of not killing him and instead making him an ally comes up, that's like a new thing to Palpatine. Like he hadn't considered that option. So what other option is there to prevent a kid from becoming a Jedi than killing him, if not turning him?
Because as we saw at the end of Episode 7, when he realized that, he basically figured it was a younger, stronger Vader. So his whole point of turning him was to replace Vader with Luke. It's the whole Rule of 2 thing.
Episode 7?
6, sorry.
Right? 'Cause,
right.
I mean, just watching that back now, you think about the fact that the Emperor was testing Vader at that point, too. You know, said, it's the offspring of Anakin Skywalker, and he says, how's that possible? Vader knew who destroyed the Death Star and stuff. He tried to play ignorant.
Yep.
To that, so those two are already poking at each other at that point. And the Emperor, I don't think he wanted Luke dead. I think both of them wanted Luke to overthrow
the other.
Well,
I mean, it's there in both movies. I mean, Vader says, join me and we can rule the galaxy as father and son. And, we can overthrow the Emperor or whatever. And then at the end of Episode 6, when Luke is beating the crap out of Vader, he's like, fulfill your destiny and take your father's place at my side. I mean, they both said it. They wanted Luke on their side. So it was the old Sith Rule of 2, the selfish Sith kind of thing.
Right.
So,
but your whole thing of like when Vader says he will join us or die, of course he's not going to tell Palpatine, yeah, I'll turn him because, I need help killing you.
I just don't know where
So that part was a ruse for Palpatine's sake.
I just don't know where you think after they have this big reveal that they can turn him to the dark side. You think Vader's then going to kill him? Once they figure out he's that powerful in the Force, why would you think Vader would be easier for him to just kill him when he's like, I'm not going to come with you? He's like, no, I'm going to knock you out. You're coming with me, dude.
No, I'm saying that was Palpatine's idea. Palpatine's idea was get this kid out of the way. He's trouble for us.
I think you're wrong.
I feel like the Emperor was pulling everybody's strings. I think he did not want Luke dead. I think he wanted him and Vader together, and he wanted to take the stronger of the two.
Well, exactly. I think he was I think he wanted Vader to try to kill Luke because whoever came out on top, that would be his apprentice. End of story. Just like he did in Episode 6.
I guess you could say it that way. I don't. I just don't. To me, it was inferred in the scene we just listened to that they wanted Luke to be turned to the dark side. And to me, if you kill him, you can't be turned to the dark side. So,
well, why turn him to the dark side at all? If he's the biggest threat to your plans, killing him is just as good, if not better, than turning him. Either way, you're snuffing out the threat.
Yeah. I just think there's too much evidence on the side of, the Rule of 2. Because at the end of Episode 6, he wanted Luke.
The Rule of 2 didn't exist at that point, though. Remember that.
I think that's bullcrap. It had existed forever.
Did it, though? I mean, you know more about the backstory of the early...
I just know with Bane.
Script... No, I mean the script drafts and things like that. I'm talking in the real world when this story was being written back in, 1978 or 9. Was that a concept that George Lucas had at that point?
I don't think so.
So that's why you can't really... Yeah, now we know the Rule of 2 and everything that Palpatine did in the prequel era and everything, but when that movie was being made, all they had to go on was A New Hope. So there was no mention of Rule of 2. That was a new concept that got introduced later.
Well, I think you're getting into semantics now to prove your point, but all right.
No, come on. That's all of Star Wars is trying to explain the inconsistencies in the continuity because basically it was an evolving story as it went. I guarantee you, Luke and Leia would not have kissed. There would have been no romantic overtones in 4 or 5 between them if George had always known that they were brother and sister.
Well, that's true.
That's the whole reason that Yoda even says after Luke takes off for Bespin, no, there is another. The other had not been decided yet. It was just a dangling plot thread to be picked up later, but it had not been spelled out.
Yeah, true. That's a question for someone more knowledgeable than me because maybe No, I guess you're right. It couldn't have been. It couldn't have been known because he wouldn't have had his sister and him kiss. I guess, but I don't know. Yeah, I disagree with you on the whole. Why didn't Vader just kill him? Because the Emperor wanted him alive.
Right. I guess we're gonna have to drop this and move on to something else because yes, the Emperor wanted him alive because Vader suggested it, not because that was the Emperor's original idea.
I don't think it was because Vader suggested. I think it was inferred from that scene that they basically like, oh, we got to get this guy to be a bad guy, not a good guy. I don't think it was just straight out of the dialogue that Vader's like, we can make him bad, and if he says no when I go get him, I'm gonna kill him. You're taking it straight out of the dialogue, and I'm taking an inference.
Did you always feel that way, or is it now?
Always.
All right, yeah, because that's the hardest thing about going back to these older movies is trying to forget everything that's been explained since then that shades our view of that series of events.
Yeah, no, I always felt that way. I never thought, never until you just brought it up. It never crossed my mind that, well, why didn't Vader just kill him? He said he's not going to join him, because I was like, they want to make him a bad guy. He's the biggest pawn in the galaxy. He's either awesome for the good guys or awesome for the bad guys, and they wanted him to be awesome for the bad guys.
We haven't heard that much from you, Steve. I mean, what did you read into that scene when you first saw it?
Right now, I'm reading into a sleep. No,
yeah,
nice.
I never thought that Palpatine wanted him dead. I always felt that it was a power struggle thing, that he was testing Vader along with trying to get his self up. If like you said, if those two battle and Luke wins, he's getting the better deal of the two still. So I think it was always anything to make him come out on top, and I don't think killing Luke was part of that.
Can you find the non-special edition version? I wonder, with the changes in dialogue, if that alters the way the scene plays.
The one where Vader says, "What's you're bidding, my master?" and he says, "How about I bid thee to stop ramming the ship into asteroid fields?" Can you handle that?
Right, that's the one.
That's the one we're looking at. Yeah, is the original cut out there on the internet somewhere? I wonder if.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is. I mean, there's plenty of side by side comparisons on YouTube. So hopefully,
because I know the isn't the dialogue's different, isn't it?
Yes, slightly. I mean, it's tweaked a little bit. Personally, that's one place where the special edition plays a lot better, I think. Not just because of the actor change on the Emperor, but just in general. I think
no, we can't say that because the special editions are, it's just like they're hell on earth.
Yeah, special edition wise, Empire Strikes Back, I think, was a much better special edition than Episode 4. They didn't make any missteps like the inserted Jabba scene in Docking Bay 94, for example. I love the way they expanded Cloud City.
That was cool.
Yeah, I love the additional screams of Han Solo while he's being tortured.
That one scream was kind of silly, where it was like, ah.
I bet you that was.
I'm like, geez, oh, Pete.
Well, I bet you
that was a scream, dude.
That was probably still Harrison Ford, though. There's plenty of movies that he shrieks in.
Oh no, I know it was him. It went on so long. I was like, who does that?
Well, it really hurt.
Yeah. It's just like, it's hurting a little bit less now. Okay, it's starting to go away. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, that thing shut itself off. All right. It was like an engine running down or something after a prop plane lands or something like that. I don't know.
Or crashes on a golf course.
Yeah, right. That's one of my favorite memes. I have it saved on my phone. It's like it's the picture of the plane crashed on the golf course, and in the foreground, it's like they're Boba Fett standing there. That was a I'll have to send that to you guys.
I thought you were going to say the one where they superimposed the Millennium Falcon over the plane.
Oh no, I didn't see that one. No, I think I would agree with you, but I think again there was less that needed to be done to Episode 5 than there was Episode 4. But
they did what needed to be done,
right?
I think I got you here.
You think you do? Okay.
Pretty sure I found the original.
Well, no.
What is thy bidding, my master?
Oh, yeah.
There is a great disturbance in the Force.
Wow. I have felt it.
We have a new enemy, Luke Skywalker.
Yes, my master.
He could destroy us.
He's just a boy. Obi-Wan can no longer help him.
The Force is strong with him. The son of Skywalker must not become a Jedi.
If he could be turned, he would become a powerful ally.
Yes. Yes. He would be a great asset. Can it be done?
He will join us or die, Master.
Take that, you special edition haters. Anyone that tells me that that's better than the Ian McDiarmid version, you just are a schmuck and a half.
I will go, since I can watch it here while you guys were listening. You could see the look on the Emperor's face that time that Ian McDiarmid didn't do. You know, that once Vader suggests turning him, you see that look on his face of, and he goes, yeah, like, so.
Oh, you don't say.
Not a bad idea.
Which is funny.
That's why I put you in charge, Annie. There we go.
I calls him Annie. That'd be great.
Little orphan Annie.
Right? It'll never be okay.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because I think vocally you can hear the surprise much more in Ian McDiarmid's take.
Yeah, definitely vocally for sure.
Yeah, so it's funny. So apparently the original Emperor looked more surprised, but the now retconned Emperor sounds more surprised.
Yeah.
Either way, there's surprise in that, which I think that supports my case.
Yeah. I wondered, I was interested to hear the dialogue, because I wondered because when it says, I've no doubt this boy's the offspring of Anakin Skywalker. I'm like, all right, was the original dialogue close to that? Because otherwise that'd be a pretty big reveal there. But he said, he actually said it, the son of Skywalker, and Vader knows who he is. So
yeah, I like the way they revised that dialogue, actually, because in the new version it sounds like Palpatine had to conclude it, like he wasn't sure, but that's the conclusion he drew. In the original, it's like, no, this is the fact, I know this already. Which, if you're Vader, you got to be like, well, wait, how do you know that?
The remake, it sounded like the Emperor's fishing and he got what he wanted, where the original, you kind of hear that surprise of, not
Right.
bad. Good idea.
I always wondered, though, that does bring up the point, like, how did the Emperor not know that, Luke Skywalker was the son of Anakin Skywalker? I mean, I always thought that would be something, just be something that if you're the most powerful dark side Force user, you would know that. But then again, I guess he didn't have any contact with Luke, so how would he have, felt that from him?
Right. He knew that Padme was pregnant, but he didn't know what became of the pregnancy.
Yeah, that's true. Well, all right, so let's close up shop and get a final couple opinions here. So,
Bet that knee's starting to hurt.
Right, bet that knee's starting to hurt.
Wait a minute, crap! We were supposed to spend this episode trying to figure out which one was better.
Yeah,
we didn't do that.
No, that I think it's a hard thing to discuss. Like I say, for me, they're equal, because one is a better movie. I think Star Wars, the first one, Episode 4. I think A New Hope is a better movie, but I think the better Star Wars movie is Episode 5. So, that's my opinion.
I would actually flip it the other way around. I think that, A New Hope can only be Star Wars. It's as an actual movie, it's really silly, and it has some stuff that doesn't play out realistically at all. Like, they talk about all the devastating things that take place in that movie, and no one bats an eyelash. Like, Leia's planet gets blown up, and then, like, when she gets back to Yavin Base, like, oh yeah, heard about Alderaan. We have no time for sympathies, Commander. Like, okay, well, all right, way to blow off the entire destruction of your planet. It's just a couple billion people, whatever.
It's just my home, my family, a couple other billion people.
Yeah,
animals,
no big deal.
Animals, trees, science, artifacts, history, Yeah.
Yeah, so they took that as a movie. I think that kind of flopped a little bit, but for Star Wars, it established a tone. So it works as a Star Wars movie. Whereas I think in Episode 5, you get a lot more personal drama which is more realistic and more dramatic in a cinematic sense.
Okay, I could see it that way. What about you, Steve?
I said ultimately, I still love the fact that the bad guys win at the end of it. So I'm still going to put Empire above, but very valid arguments on why you could justify 4 being better than 5, though.
There you go. So you and I have the reverse opinion, AJ, and Steve has a straight up vote for episode 5. That's not too bad.
I do like my Empire.
Yeah,
you are a dark side kind of guy.
If I got to straight up pick a favorite, I've always said that I would rate Empire above A New Hope, and I'm just going to stick with it now, even though they're both great and have their merits.
Yeah, like I said, they're equal to me, but for different reasons.
There is no 5 without 4, so obviously 4 is the best, right?
Right? It started it all, so... Well, all right, that was definitely spirited conversation and started out sillier than all hell, as usual. We want to thank everybody for tuning in again. Our numbers are slowly creeping up. Our Facebook page is getting some interesting dialogue. My cousin and I are hacking away at each other. About
our numbers are getting bigger as your waistline is getting smaller.
I know. Maybe
Not
that's the
much.
thing. Maybe people, yeah. Hey, maybe people are just tuning in to hear the update on my weight loss. Who knows? But in any case, again, thanks for tuning in. Steve, I think I can speak for AJ on this one. Congratulations. Hopefully, kids start sleeping through the night sooner rather than later.
Oh, I don't think he will have any issues sleeping through the night. It's just if we leave him alone now, he will be like 2 pounds by morning. So we got to keep waking him up and make sure he eats.
Right?
But thank you.
Oh, very welcome.
Hey, if you need any tips on waking up to eat, just go to JT.
I do not wake up in the middle of the night to eat. I'm not that much of a fatty. It's weekends that kill me, man. It's weekends.
You leave tacos by your bedside.
I haven't done that in a very long time.
Speaking of, way to throw this off the rails, everybody has their little Facebook on this day thing, that pops up. Probably about a week and a half ago or something, there was a picture of me passed out on my parents' basement floor, and I'm like, pocket taco
was
night,
that
dude.
The pocket taco
that
night?
Was totally the night, dude. So, somewhere
That's
around,
awesome.
beginning of April-ish is, pocket taco anniversary.
So April will forever be the Nerf Herder Council Pocket Taco Month.
Oh, as long as we're talking Facebook
we
memories.
Get popular enough, that's going to be...
Right.
I love this concept, by the way. I really do.
Tune in. Pocket Taco Month coming up.
Nice.
Going to have our first Pocket Taco night over at this bar or bowling alley somewhere.
You have to bring the tacos in, but only in your pocket. You can't,
sponsored by Captain Taco.
Yeah, right.
40-cent tacos.
That's right. All right, so we're gonna get out of here. All the usual links. You can check us out on. Wait, you got something else?
Well, I just wanted to point out to you, speaking of Facebook memories, do you realize where we were on this day 1 year ago?
April 27th.
Yeah, because I was sending you guys goofy messages.
That was like a week after Celebration.
No, it was Celebration.
I thought those were in the teens.
Nope, I'm getting Facebook memories.
Because I sent you guys a picture of the people that were dressed up in Star Wars outfits standing next to the Jesus freaks outside, holding he had the God hates Star Wars sign or whatever, and the other guy in the Boba Fett,
At some point, we'll have to post those.
Oh, it was classic, yeah.
I was like, hey, have you run into these guys yet?
That guy was hilarious.
But yeah, we're officially 1 year out from the genesis of this entire podcast now. And sadly, 1 year has passed since we've been at Celebration, and probably another 2 before we will be back.
Now, but there is some good news, because we're about 2.5 months removed from the announcement of when the next one's going to be. Because that they always announce the next Celebration during the closing ceremonies of the previous one. So we have Celebration Europe in the middle of July. So we should get the next announcement of the next Celebration.
And when do tickets go on sale then?
Well, if it's anything like the last one, they'll tell us then as well. The previous ones just said, hey, keep an eye out for tickets, and I was on the Celebration website literally every day for months on end.
Yeah, I think yesterday was might have been one of the no, it couldn't have been the opening day because people were making memes of it, but I remember my one of the pictures I shared with you guys is a picture of Thor from the first movie. And instead of the coffee cup in his hand, there was a picture of the Millennium Falcon. It said this trailer, I like it. I want another.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Awesome. And so I will also close out with this thought. Before we get to the next episode of the Nerf Herder Council, May the 4th will be upon us.
Yeah, that's right.
So to all of our listeners out there,
May the 4th be with you. And that's also my dog Belly's birthday. She will turn 1 year old.
Excellent.
So she's a Star Wars puppy. So you know the usual places. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. The Twitter handle is @NHC Podcast. We do have the website, nerfherdercouncil.com. You can find all of our links to Spreaker and all the other different platforms where you can stream or download episodes of the show.
Google Play.
Google Play. We actually got tweeted at by Google Play, which was pretty cool.
Yep.
That was like a small victory in my world. So.
And Tracy Canobio.
Yes. So we're starting to get noticed out there. We're high rollers apparently.
I wouldn't go that far.
Right? We're kind of a big deal in the Resistance.
Yeah, right. This is what we look like. Some of us, anyway. So, anyways,
others look different.
Yeah. Thanks again, everybody. I am your host, JT at Dog Pound Jedi. He's AJ
at Drake Adams 579.
He's a very tired Steve.
I should probably go to bed right now. That's way too many things for Twitter. At JSteve1005.
And we'll catch you guys next time.
Is never gonna get us past that blockade.
This bucket's got a few surprises left in her. Plus, me and Chewie are on it. Ain't that right, Chewie?
Hell yeah, you my Nerf herder.
You my Nerf herder.